I'm Brandon Wong. This is Nightline, the top stories. Malaysia records 8 more COVID-19 related deaths. And MACC sets up a special task force to monitor the distribution of the 250 billion ringgit Prihatin Rakyat package. Good morning. Malaysia recorded 8 more deaths related to COVID-19 on Sunday, the highest daily toll reported so far, bringing the total number of casualties of the pandemic to 35 to date. The 8th death of the day was a 57-year-old assistant administrator who worked with the Health Ministry's Human Resources Department. She died at the Sungai Buloh Hospital at 4 p.m. However, the number of those who recovered is also at a record high at 68, making the total of those who have recovered and discharged 388.
Sehingga kini seramai 73 kes positif COVID-19 sedang dirawat di unit rawatan rapi iaitu ICU. Daripada jumlah tersebut, 52 kes memerlukan bantuan pernafasan.
He also said 150 new cases were reported as of noon Sunday, bringing the tally to 2,470 cases. Commenting on the increase in the death rate, Dr. Nur Hisham said it could be attributed to a number of health factors. He stressed that many of the patients were at an advanced age and had ailments such as diabetes, high blood pressure or kidney disease, and came in for treatment at a late stage with respiratory infections. At the same media conference, Dr. Nur Hisham said the Higher Education Ministry and the Science, Technology and Innovation Ministry have prepared 10 diagnostic labs for the Health Ministry to allow for increased COVID-19 testing. He said the ministries have also provided a mobile lab to allow it to be located at COVID-19 hotspots and conduct on-site testing.
Terkini bagi membantu Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia meningkatkan kapasiti ujian pengesanan COVID-19, Kementerian Pengajian Tinggi serta Kementerian Sains, Teknologi dan Inovasi telah menyediakan 10 makmal diagnostik tambahan di institusi pengajian tinggi, hospital pengajar universiti, termasuk 1 makmal bergerak yang boleh dihantar ke kawasan hotspot.
All 10 of the additional diagnostic labs will be able to perform 42,420 tracking tests per month or 1,414 per day. Dr. Nur Hisham also encouraged more health and medical volunteers to come forward to assist with the COVID-19 outbreak. To date, 157 volunteers have come forward and have been deployed in stages to assist the health and medical team, while around 1,000 more volunteers are expected to be deployed soon. 7 villages in Ulu Langat will be placed under an enhanced movement control order EMCO from midnight until April the 13th after 71 Tahfiz residents tested positive for COVID-19. Senior Minister for Security Cluster of the National Security Council, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, said the area under the EMCO covers Batu 21 until Batu 24 in Sungai Lui, Selangor. Datuk Sri Ismail, in a statement on Sunday, said the EMCO was imposed after the Health Ministry detected 71 positive COVID-19 cases out of 274 residents from the Mahaf Tahfiz An-Nabawiyah School at Batu 23, Sungai Lui. He said the EMCO will involve 3,918 residents comprising 700 houses in 7 villages, 2 Orang Asli villages and 5 Malay villages. Datuk Sri Ismail stressed that the EMCO was being implemented to prevent the further spread of COVID-19 there and carry out case tracking from house to house. During this period, the minister said all residents and visitors in the area would not be allowed to leave their houses, and non-residents and visitors are not allowed to enter the area. All exits would be closed and all business activities stopped, and basic foodstuffs for the 14-day duration will be supplied to residents by the Social Welfare Department. Datuk Sri Ismail also urged all residents in the area to remain calm and give their full cooperation to Health Ministry officers and obey all orders from the authorities. Earlier during his daily media conference, Datuk Sri Ismail said the number of individuals who defied the Movement Control Order MCO is still high, with 649 people arrested on Saturday. He said of the total, 73 of them had been charged in court and pleaded guilty to the offence.
Pihak polis telah pun diberikan kebenaran untuk mengambil tindakan yang tegas. Antaranya adalah mungkin akan dilakukan dengan segera, iaitu mengeluarkan kompaun dan sebagainya, selain daripada tindakan membawa mereka ke mahkamah.
The minister said 997 roadblocks were mounted on Saturday, with 310,938 vehicles inspected from more than 200,000 vehicles the previous day. He noted that it showed that people are still moving around as there are still many vehicles on the road. Meanwhile, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri assured that there is currently no shortage of food, as staple food items are still easily obtainable at major hypermarkets and supermarkets nationwide. He said the government had inspected 27 outlets across Malaysia and found no reason for Malaysians to be concerned about not being able to buy essentials.
Apabila kita sebut beras mencukupi, ianya dirujuk kepada beras, bukan jenama beras tersebut. Jadi mungkin ada orang tertentu, rakyat kita, pihak tertentu yang favourite dia adalah beras berjenama A. Jadi kalau beras jenama A itu tidak ada, bukan bermakna beras tidak ada, kerana beras mempunyai berbagai-bagai jenama. Bermakna beras mencukupi. Kita lihat dari segi.
He also thanked businesses and consumers for observing the social distancing guidelines as protection against COVID-19. He said some hypermarkets have introduced measures of their own, such as queuing guides that encourage consumers to maintain the recommended 1 meter gap from each other to minimize the risk of infections. Datuk Sri Ismail's statement was supported by Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, who went for groceries at an undisclosed supermarket in Kuala Lumpur on Sunday and found no reason to be concerned about food shortages. He posted about his visit on Facebook, along with photographs of his supermarket run. He said he managed to go to a supermarket in the city looking for some items while observing people's conduct there. The Prime Minister said many were aware of the need for social distancing. He also found the supermarket to be fully stocked. He wrote, "So there is no need to panic." The photographs included showed Tan Sri Muhyiddin donning a face mask and surgical gloves before having his temperature checked before entering the supermarket. Malaysia is in its 12th day of what is now a month-long movement control order to try and contain the spread of COVID-19. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC has set up a special task force to monitor the distribution of the 250 billion ringgit Prihatin Rakyat economic stimulus package announced by Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. The move is to ensure no leakages in the implementation process and ensuring the funds reach the targeted groups. A source told TV3 that the special task force will scrutinise the distribution of the funds as they involve a host of emergency expenditures which have and will be done by various government agencies. Although it is too early to speculate on the possibility of misappropriations, with the special task force, the assurance is that each cent taken out will be channelled to the right recipient. When contacted, MACC Chief Commissioner Datuk Sri Azabaki had this to say.
SPRN seperti mana biasa, kita sentiasa menjalankan tugas mengikut undang-undang dan juga SOP kami. Saya tidak tak berhajat untuk elaborate sama ada pihak kami menyediakan kuasa bagi memantau peruntukan-peruntukan ini. Tapi sekadar saya boleh katakan bahawa SPRN akan meneliti dan memantau peruntukan-peruntukan yang akan disalurkan kepada agensi kerajaan demi kepentingan rakyat.
He explained that the MACC had its own way of conducting the monitoring process following the government's announcement of the stimulus package.
Dalam keadaan wabak COVID-19 sekarang ini, yang mana SRM melihat satu daripadanya ialah banyak perbelanjaan kecemasan telah akan dibuat ataupun telah dibuat oleh jabatan-jabatan agensi kerajaan. Dan kedua, pakej rancangan ekonomi yang diumumkan oleh Perdana Menteri baru ini selain daripada bantuan-bantuan yang bakal disalurkan kepada penerima-penerima bantuan, banyak juga kita perhatikan ia berkaitan dengan peruntukan-peruntukan untuk dibuat perolehan. Jadi perolehan ini sewajarnya diuruskan dengan baiklah oleh agensi kerajaan yang terbabitlah supaya bagi mengelakkan daripada berlaku salah guna kuasa, rasuah dan juga penyelewengan.
Members of the public with information regarding any abuses may contact the MACC for further action. The Bantuan Prihatin Nasional (BPN) cash handouts for low-income households worth 10 billion ringgit will be dispersed in 2 phases based on the qualifying criteria. According to the Finance Ministry, the payments, part of the Prihatin Rakyat economic stimulus package over the COVID-19 pandemic, will be made by the end of April and May and includes households who earn 4,000 ringgit and below. The ministry in a statement on Sunday said BPN for households earning 4,000 ringgit or less will be 1,600 with a 1,000 ringgit payment in April and 600 in May. It said households earning between 4,001 and 8,000 ringgit will receive 1,000 ringgit with 500 ringgit in April and May respectively. Singles earning 2,000 ringgit or less will receive BPN of 800 ringgit with 500 ringgit in April and 300 ringgit in May, while singles earning 2,001 to 4,000 ringgit will receive 500 ringgit with 250 ringgit in April and May, respectively. The ministry also stressed that BPN recipients who do not need to apply or make new applications for it include households and single individuals who were approved under the Living Cost Aid Scheme or BSH, as well as households and single individuals who are registered taxpayers under the Inland Revenue Board. It added households and singles will receive the BPN via their bank accounts linked to BSH and LHDN respectively. And for those who have not yet registered, new applications can be made starting Wednesday via the IRB website. The ministry also reminded the public to be wary of scammers who have become emboldened by the opportunity to commit fraud against those who need such assistance. Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin on Friday announced the 250 billion ringgit stimulus package to help ease the burden of all Malaysians. The world's largest glove maker, Top Glove Corporation Berhad, expects the product shortage as demand from Europe and the United States spikes because of the widening COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak is exceeding its capacity. Its executive chairman, Tan Sri Lim Wee Chai, said the company has extended shipping times to cope with the demand surge. Orders received in the past few weeks, mainly from Europe and the United States, will almost double the company's production capacity. Top Glove can produce 200 million natural and synthetic rubber gloves a day. There are now more than 600,000 coronavirus cases across 202 countries and territories globally, with the United States overtaking China as the country with the most infections. The World Health Organization, WHO, warned on Friday that the chronic global shortage of personal protective gear is among the most urgent threats to the virus containment efforts. The exceptional buying momentum could last another 3 months. This month, Top Glove stepped up its factory utilization by 10% to 95% and expects to reach near maximum utilization in April. The company is rushing to source another 1,000 workers to keep up. Singapore authorities have cancelled the passports of a citizen who breached a 14-day stay-home notice over COVID-19. A 53-year-old man who was issued the notice on March the 19th when he returned to Singapore via the Tanah Merah ferry terminal from Batam, Indonesia, where he had gone on March the 3rd. According to the Republic's Immigration and Checkpoints Authority, ICA, the man went to Indonesia again on the same day, despite ICA officers warning him that he would breach the stay-home notice and face a penalty. Previously, Singapore had announced that with effect from March the 16th, all travellers entering the Republic after having travelled to any other ASEAN country within the previous 14 days must remain in their homes for a 14-day period. On March the 24th, he returned to Singapore through the Singapore Cruise Centre and was issued a second 14-day stay-home notice, effective until April the 7th. The ICA said the man has displayed irresponsible conduct by not complying with the requirements of the first stay-home order and, as such, cancelled his passport and referred the case to the Ministry of Health for investigation. It said offenders can also be prosecuted under the Infectious Disease Act and face a fine of up to 10,000 Singapore dollars or up to 6 months imprisonment or both upon conviction. Meanwhile, earlier, Singapore reported one more death from COVID-19, taking the death toll in the country to 3. The Republic has so far recorded 802 positive cases, with 198 having recovered from the illness. Doctors, politicians and human rights commissioners are calling on Indonesia's government to enact tighter movement restrictions as the death toll from COVID-19 rose on Sunday in the world's 4th most populous country, which has resisted lockdowns. A government minister in the country of 260 million said on Friday that the regulation was being prepared so regions can limit movement to stop the spread of the disease, which has killed 114 people in Indonesia as of Sunday, with 1,285 confirmed cases. He, however, did not say when the legislation would be ready or how far it would go. President Joko Widodo previously encouraged social distancing but questioned whether Indonesians have the culture or discipline for lockdowns. That has marked Indonesia out from Southeast Asian countries that have enacted restrictions such as the Philippines, Malaysia and Thailand. Spain's COVID-19 coronavirus death toll rose by 838 cases overnight to 6,528, marking the highest daily rise in fatalities. The health ministry said the total number of those infected, meanwhile, rose to 78,797 from 72,248 on Saturday. The number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Germany has risen to 52,547, and 389 people have died of the disease. Cases rose by 3,965 compared with the previous day, while the death toll climbed by 64. The Chinese mainland had 45 new confirmed cases of COVID-19, of which 44 were imported on Saturday, bringing the total number of imported cases to 693. The overall confirmed cases on the mainland has reached 81,439 by the end of Saturday, including 2,691 patients who were still being treated, of which 742 were in critical condition. New Zealand recorded its first death related to the new coronavirus, and the number of people infected with the virus rose by 63 cases to a total of 514 on Sunday. Health Director General Ashley Bloomfield said the woman who died was in her 70s. She was initially diagnosed with influenza. Still to come, defying MCO, more than 100 people remanded. Welcome back. In Pulau Pinang, 103 people who were arrested for allegedly violating the Movement Control Order MCO were remanded on Sunday to facilitate probe into the case. In Bukit Mertajam, the 69 people arrested at Seberang Perai Tengah were remanded for 4 days until April the 1st. They were hauled up for allegedly having coffee with friends at coffee shops, jogging or obstructing civil servants from carrying out their duties. All were aged between 20 and 40. In Butterworth, at the Magistrates Court, 25 individuals were also remanded for 4 days for the same reason. 19 of them were Myanmar nationals. They were arrested at 4:45 p.m. on Saturday in Bagan Ajam. 13 others were arrested in 2 separate locations in Kepala Batas. 3 of them tested positive for drugs, while another had a previous criminal record. 2 others were picked up at Pantai Bersih while trying to flee. In Johor, police arrested 30 individuals for participating in a party at 3 apartment units at Jalan Tanjung Putri in Johor Bahru late Saturday. 2 underage youths were among them, aged 15 and 17. 17 of them tested positive for drugs. In Pulau Pinang, 14 people were nabbed for hanging out with friends at hotspots around Georgetown. A 70-year-old local man and a Bangladeshi man were among them. Some of them gave various excuses for defying the MCO but were unable to furnish proof. In Kedah, a van driver pleaded not guilty at the Sungai Petani Magistrates Court for obstructing a policeman's duty on March the 19th. The accused had allegedly used offensive language when asked to produce his MyCard. The court set bail at 7,000 ringgit and set May the 19th for remention of the case. In Terengganu, 2 men were charged at the Kuala Terengganu Magistrates Court for failing to comply with the MCO. 39-year-old Muhammad Sharafi Muhammad from Kuala Nerus pleaded guilty to the charge under the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Act. The other accused, 27-year-old Muhammad Hafiz Matsuki, also from Kuala Nerus, made the guilty plea according to the Penal Code for allegedly obstructing a civil servant from carrying out his duties, but pleaded not guilty for violating the MCO. The court fixed May the 5th for remention of the case for both accused. And before we wrap this edition of Nightline, let's see what has been installed on the front pages of Malaysia's main newspapers on Monday, March the 30th. Both the New Straits Times and Berita Harian highlight the Health Ministry's appeal for more medical volunteers to join the fight against COVID-19. The nation's best-selling Malay newspaper, Harian Metro, meanwhile, focuses on preparations come COVID-19's third wave. And lastly, a report on hoteliers staring at a 1 billion ringgit loss gets the front page of the Malaysian Reserve. Do get your copies today. As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a look as light went dark across the globe to mark the 13th annual Earth Hour intended to draw attention to climate change. Among the famous buildings and structures taking part were Sydney's Opera House and Harbour Bridge, as well as the Sky Tower in Auckland and Taipei's 101 Tower in Taiwan. With that, I'm Brendan Wong. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and please stay at home.